Hey everyone, we are back, and this is another episode of This Is Tech Talks. And today we have really special guest because I have known Aravind since like a long time, and we met last year, right, Aravind? So it was React Nexus. No, not React Nexus. I think I was there for React Nexus, and then I came to meet you for another conference, which was not related to front end at all. So what was that? KCD or something?
Yeah, we met at KCD Bengaluru. Yeah, I think that's the place where it's interesting.
Just thinking about it, we are actually neighbors. So I live near Amsterdam, like he and Arvind lives in Amsterdam, but we never met in Europe. So we finally had to travel to India to meet each other. And we also met last year at GitHub Universe, where Arvind and his company was sponsoring, and we got some chance to spend some time together. So hopefully you will make it this year as well, Arvind.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I really absolutely loved meeting everyone at Universe. So would love to meet.
It's a great conference. I mean, I've been there for 2 years. Probably I'll make it this year as well. And the amount of people you see at one single place, that's amazing. I mean, I think that's how San Francisco is, right? I mean, so you have been to San Francisco before?
Yeah, I have been for pleasure, right? For any conferences. So
Yes.
yeah, I've been there.
I'm just wondering, like, who goes to San Francisco for pleasure? No worries, then let's not talk about it. But yeah, good to have you, Arvind, here. And welcome back, Sonu. Sonu missed our last episode, but yeah, he's back to give me company for this one. So today we will be talking about Gen AI. I think this is one of the topic which I have seen Arvind talking a lot now over the years, and now his involvement with CodeRabbit, which is again a Gen AI company. So I think we found the perfect guest to actually talk about this topic. So before we go ahead and talk about it, Arvind, so would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh well, can I take 5 minutes?
For sure.
Well, okay. I mean, as everyone keeps calling Arvind, I'm Arvind, and then I work at diverse capacities as an engineer, as an evangelist, as a product manager, as someone who is doing growth for different companies. I've done everything, like full stack company work. Just like maybe I should also take up the founder work at some point. But otherwise, worked on system integrator places, worked with large banks, worked on large data projects. So mostly like I have worked in the backend systems or like, more near to the data before ML really picked up. But I was always happy to get into this ML and security. I worked at McAfee, American Express, and then eventually, due to the interest, the open source community and the meetups that I did, I went on to work with Elastic. Elasticsearch is a very popular search engine. And then I looked after the Indian community, Southeast Asian, and a lot of communities around. And that was like a pivotal point in my career. And then eventually I kind of like moved to the Amsterdam and there started to work with a lot of other developer communities. I got an itch to work on my own and then, started to work and consult with different founders post Elastic, and then somehow this AI code and AI thing has pulled me, catapulted into this entire era of generative AI. And now I'm kind of like it's a bit natural, as well as we can talk more. But then currently, like at CodeRabbit, which does AI code reviews, and I think it's very important at this point of time to think something like code quality. So I naturally felt gravitated. But yeah, I think yeah, pretty exciting times to be in, and so glad to be here today. Thanks, Santosh and Sonu.
I was just wondering, like, is there anything else you don't know?
Yeah, you know everything, and then we can talk more. Obviously, there's more end of the day, right?
It's okay. So, okay, let's go ahead and talk about the topic, right? So, we have been hearing about Gen AI. I think that really picked up after COVID, and it's been a hot topic for like last 2 years now. So, can you like explain in simple words, like what is generative AI and the reason it has gained so much attention, basically, why we are talking about it?
So this is a big question actually. And then to be honest, I myself find it like, pretty small to explain such a large area that is been there always. This is something not that is correct immediately. It's been there like maybe like for 3-4 years. The word GPT existed before 2023, before chat GPT and all. And very few people might know it, GPT-2, GPT-1. But then again, to talk about the larger trend, ML and AI has been like always talked about. People talk like, AI will kill the jobs, and there's been such sort of a wave on all ends, right? On all spectrum. A lot of companies have been AI driven, or that they have there in that messaging and all. What generative AI literally means, it helps you to kind of like, it generates a specific set of like a corpus of text by a simple English prompt. And the modalities might be differing, right? Say it might be, text in some methods, it might be image content because we are using diffusion models, it might be something else like a video content. So the modalities might change, but then previously when you are using AI, it's more about prediction models, maybe forecasting, maybe categorizing. In traditional ML, you have seen all of this. And when the YouTube algorithm suggests the next video that you really want to watch, when the Facebook suggested that friend that you missed up, like, in your childhood, you all find it like, oh, so crazy. But now it's able to suggest something that probably your kid, that like 6-year-old kid would do, right? It amazes you the same way that a toddler would amaze you at some point. So generative AI is naturally generating some corpus of text, and there are models, various varieties, and it's a large area at this point of time. But I also want to point out that it's a subset of a lot of larger ecosystem of things. This is not AI. A lot many people use loosely AI as the word to refer to generative AI. Generative AI is a subset of AI. There is more applications to AI, like say drug discovery, which goes beyond. Maybe generative AI can be applied. It's like a method, right? I mean, to put more clearly and easily, right? Angular is a framework, but JavaScript is much bigger, right? So I think there are DOM is much bigger than JavaScript if you look at, right? So you have these bigger concept, bigger structures and stuff like that. So in one of the deep learning methods, I think generative AI and the architecture, transformer architecture, has been revolutionary in producing all this wave, and then people have lapped up and then innovated more and more, and the innovation continues. You're seeing more and more stuff.
Interesting. So just a question, like, so whenever we talk about like this Gen AI, we all often talk about the CPUs, like, okay, that's because CPUs became more powerful, this is possible. Is that reality, or we are just making it up and because NVIDIA wants to sell more CPUs?
No, I think both are different type of compute, right? CPUs cater to different needs, and GPUs have always been there. I myself have always wanted a machine that with GeForce to play nicer games. This is just 15 years back, not so far. Like, 15 years back, I want to play a game, a PC game on a Microsoft Windows, and I always wanted like, wish I would have added GPU. The rendering engine would be much better, the game would be much better, things like that. So GPUs have always existed, and then this newfound love is also not old, because there are a lot of companies that have been using GPU. I know there is one Fortune 10 company, and this is like 2021, and they have built a very big cluster in Asia for GPU for serving their own e-commerce needs. So I think there are people like these who have always used GPUs, so it's not newfound. But then what's interesting is the methods, the innovation has doubled up. I mean, say for example, people now are focusing on CUDA kernels, right? And I think there is like a bunch of people who are doing proprietary. There are some companies like DeepSeek, which is also open sourcing some of these methods so that you could extract more juice out of the same GPU. And there are new GPUs. While people still use older GPUs to produce good models, DeepSeek does it. But then you have these H100s, and then you have the B100, which was released last year or something. So I think like that's been there. One thing that's happening at a very faster rate, unlike our older times, like maybe I at least feel now old, right? Is generative AI, the hype train is going really fast. So you don't need to worry about infra anymore. So we don't need to think about it, right? I mean, you're not working on like a Docker command or like, a container, or you're not working on an EC2 or a VMware VM or workstation. You're directly spinning up or talking to an API actually. Boon for front end engineers.
That makes your life easier, right? So you don't have to host anything. You just need to call the API, and like all the load is actually taken care by someone else. Like you're not even paying for it. That's why ChatGPT became popular, right? So it's like now front end developers can become machine learning developers.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting thing that's happening all across the founder space and then also the developer space. The founder space, a lot of people who were research scientists, research engineers were becoming founders because they have good thoughts, and they have built a lot of interesting applications to AI. It might be applied AI or core AI, like or a research side of things. They're becoming founders and bringing that out. One example is like Aravind Srinivas, who did Perplexity. It's a nice applied AI. It's always been there, but then now with LLMs, it became easy. And there are many people, like I think I know a bunch of them. I worked with Fireworks AI at some point last year, and then they have such people. Now on the application side, a lot of developers now can easily access through an API. Again, not new. I believe if you know TensorFlow.js, and then there is this ML serving, like tensor serving stack, and then this serving stack helps you to serve over an API, and then you can always call an API, and then you can do all of this. So it's been there, but it's for smaller models. Say for example, you have mask generation. Say you give some starting point, it will generate it for you next. These are models like T1 or Flan type models. There are BERT models. So the models are there. It is just that there's a bigger wave, and the token economy has been unleashed. And everyone is only talking about tokens. What is the price for 1 million tokens?
Yeah, I wanted to understand, a little bit how Gen AI actually differs from traditional automation and machine learning.
Think of it like a proactive and creative methodology, whereas like your traditional automation or many classic machine learning systems are very much like reactive in nature. Like say for example, those are more or less scripted workflows and follows like some explicit rules to repeatedly perform a predefined tasks. It might or might not learn from new content. And then traditional ML models might focus on pattern recognition, analyzing a specific data to classify and predict outcomes from a set parameters. You can tune these parameters. In fact, actually traditional AI excels at like pattern recognition. Actually generative AI excels at pattern creation in a way that this is also like quoted somewhere, wherein you give few examples, it will be able to follow that instruction and create something really similar. Earlier it will be like, say for example, somebody has logged in in a computer. Usually the person logs in like say in the east coast US, but then suddenly the person logs in the India time zone, or completely opposite. Then it flags as an anomaly, right? So, something like, because it observed that you always log in at this point of time. Now today you're logging in another time. So that sort of a models or techniques were there previously, but now I think there are these new the pattern creation is also possible with these models, and then entirely new outputs. Again, another difference I feel like flexibility and the way that you can adapt some of these tasks, like are a lot there. Generative AI can also be more general. Large language model has multiple skills. One model have multiple skills. Earlier we train models for specific tasks. Now here the model can write code. Summarization is a very big feature. You see, it can do support calls, like answering questions if you have a corpus of knowledge, learn from different contexts, and build this sort of a weighted neural network that helps you to do all of this. But yeah, the caveat here is in good data, good compute. I mean, well engineered compute and large infrastructure. And in fact, actually, I also want to go, and this is my last point I want to say here, is like it's a bit less transparent than your regular ML systems, where you know very clearly what you are building and everything. Here, maybe you might not really know what's happening. How do you activate a certain area of neural net or something like that? It's not very clear. But then otherwise, end of the day, that's where everyone was talking about. Like it introduces that creative tinge of creativity, and that you would not find usually in traditional rule-based systems, which is like your ML systems.
Makes sense. I remember I have used TensorFlow only once, like when I was not a machine learning agent. It was just for OCR, like optical character recognition. I think that was the use case, especially in the banks, because they used to get a lot of forms, so they used to extract all the information. But now, if you see generative AI, it's like you give the image and it can tell you so much information about that image, or let it be a PDF or anything. It has improved a lot. One thing which I remember, like when we were using like traditional machine learning, it was not 100%. Like even not 100%, forget about it. Like it used to give you 50, 60%, and then you used to share like, okay, let's tune the model. Now with generative AI, I think it has closed that gap, right? I mean, you cannot say like just another human who is sitting there and telling you more about like what this image is. Which brings me to my next question, follow-up question, actually. So now generative AI has become like so much part of everyone's daily workflow. Do you think there are some applications out there which people are not, or they don't even recognize that this is a generative AI?
Well, I think, I mean, again, a lot many people are generating code. I mean, coding is one, again, code generation. And I think this fits very well. One of the very few use cases that is sure shot going to be successful in this era is like AI coding. I have no doubt about it. because we are all we have built a rule based system. We have built a system that has some AST, a syntax tree, and some rules, and the compiler itself is like instruction oriented, right? So all of these interpreters, everything. So you have patterns and you have knowledge. So that's where I think AI coding is one big area. But I think there are use cases, not because I just work for Code Rabbit, but then use cases like, code reviews. I mean, it might not look like the obvious thing, but then AI code reviews is one area wherein you need to think about code quality, because code generation goes industrial. How do you manage code quality, right? So we are entering into an era where it's a new type of industrial revolution. And then so how do we manage or do QC for it, like how pharma does for picking up a sample from a batch and using a statistical method to test it, right? So some things like that. So there are many use cases. I think the applications are very wide and clear, especially, like I said, AI coding is one that people know. But if you are looking at something that people might not have realized, I think maybe more around gluing systems together. I think people don't realize it, wherein like you have a specific agent or a combination of agents doing both your managing enter your comms, and it's a comms, your phones, your emails, work and personal, your tasks that are occurring through those emails. So it's like, if you say that you are running an errand, I think those days probably would be gone, and then something can automatically do it much better. And then your photos related stuff, like the entire multimedia area is like one another big area. And I think customer service is anyway going to be huge, and again there are quality issues that come out of these bots. So I think that's another area. So I believe that a lot many people at this point of time have discovered use cases, but then I'm pretty sure like customer service area, and then the tier 1 support, I mean to say the tier 1 support, basic questions referring KB, so that tier 1 support, tier 1 voice support, and AI code generation for simple POCs for PMs, it's gone case already. It's replaced. AI replaced always generative AI.
So we know everybody's using AI, right? Right. So let's talk about businesses. Like, can they afford to ignore Gen AI, or is it like becoming like a necessity for them to implement it?
I think people should embrace it. People should not, like B2C audience, everybody in our daily life. And then I mean students who are studying, like everybody should embrace it, especially businesses. The productivity gains that I see are amazing, and I could potentially be more. I'm already very productive than earlier. In fact, actually I'm just a bit worried that if it happens to be from an employer standpoint of time, a lot many people think that if you're not using AI, you are a step down. It's not like studying. It's a level, right? It's not even a certification or something. It's have you completed your graduation? It's more in that area, right? So people might get into that mode where, do you know how to use ChatGPT, or do you know how to use one of these AI tools? So it might happen for at least non-tech roles, because your productivity gains are amazing. And then how do you probably like ignore it? So I think businesses should definitely embrace and not feel like okay, it's challenging. In fact, actually with AI, with the same workforce, you can probably double your revenue. So that's the way that you should think about it, rather than maybe. And I think Microsoft has a very good way to put it together, and they're coming up with a very nice message, and I believe they call it as Copilot. And recently I was saying like, oh, pair programmer to the peer programmer. So I think this messaging, I think it gives you that sort of like, well, I completely don't believe that you can cut off the human, but then humans need to upskill a bit better and embrace the AI. So I mean, that's what I think. So
I mean, this is a very good question. Like businesses can afford to ignore generative AI, but this is also, I mean, I just saw human AI got sold. I mean, so remember, right? So they
yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
they got acquired by HP, and then few $100 million, right? So it's not even like $1 billion deal or something. So, and it brings me to another question. Like, do you think like even there are companies who are rushing because they have discovered, okay, now probably let's try because Gen AI can do this as well. Like, do you think like people are just rushing for to probably solve some issues which doesn't exist?
Oh, very much. I think in every hype cycle, you will see these people. I think, especially, I can openly say that I'm not like a big believer when Web3 happened. I mean, I don't know if we should still call it as Web3 or something, but then I was not like a crypto guy. Somehow I could not believe that a lot of that wave, and then it created a lot of fake sense of something that doesn't exist, NFTs and things like that. So I'm not sure if we do need to like think about it like that. But every wave will have this sort of people, 100%, and we should be wary of them, and we should strategically avoid. And I think there are interesting applications people will try and then fail. That's also there. Human AI is like one great example of like, they have done put together the best work, I believe. And then maybe like, they have probably overestimated or underestimated the demand, support, and everything. There is one more company also, I'll tell you, it's called Rewind, or they were also like a pendant company. I don't remember the exact name, but then they were doing amazing application of some of these already exist in cultures like Japanese. By the way, in Japan, you find these sort of people continue to record your video while you're speaking and all, and they have transcribers and they have these automatic AI summarizers because they're productivity nerds. Like a lot of people in the Japan, they really like to be more productive, and it's not like a stereotyping. They really like to be like being more productive, being organized. So I think these tools existed. Now I think it's getting more mainstream. Who knows, like Apple might launch an a pendant or something to add up to their ecosystem. It probably needs, some of these companies probably need more help, compute, and traction to become more successful. So hopefully, yeah, I think it should be better.
Yes. So talking about these companies, what do you think? What industries will be mostly disrupted by Gen AI?
I think, first of all, there are some areas that are gone. I believe you would have seen it, right? I think the entire no code area is like gone in a way, right? Because I've used a lot of these tools to build internal apps back in the day, or personal apps. I really like to toy around them. But I think now you can one shot a specific app and then, take it to the completion. So that's completely gone. There are also like, a lot of these BPO agencies and people who actually have built good amount of infrastructure processes around BPOs. I think AI is gonna like, augment or like, cut down a lot of like demand for it. Not just human demand, but then infrastructure point of view, like having someone look at your tier one support and things like that. So disruption is everywhere, but then these are like, fully impacted in a way that they need to completely embrace and like, pivot and do more stuff. I think wherever there is knowledge intensity, where you need a lot of knowledge to look through, like for example, like I said, like I keep saying, right, customer service, where somebody needs to look up to something and give an answer. I think because the knowledge is compressed, plus it has some grain of intelligence or something that it can make up. If you index properly the knowledge base and all the things, probably you don't need an agent to answer that specific question. So things like that. So yeah, I think another interesting trend that I see is like, unlike your regular other companies or other places, I think bigger companies like say banking or insurance or your traditional large behemoths who are laggards in adapting technology now are adapting this thing because it gains a lot of benefit in terms of what and how they can do, like, in terms of productivity, in terms of like, giving better customer service and things like that. So yeah.
Because like we are seeing it is also impacting the software industry. But did you by any chance read that recent pragmatic engineering blog from correctly? And he said no, it's not Gen AI. It just was there like already.
Yeah, exactly. If there is anything, I feel like why I did not tell you software. I told like customer service and all. Why I did not tell you? I think these are more exciting times for a developer. I think definitely a senior engineer, a principal engineer, or somebody who's like an expert, like you both are GDs, you would know, right? Will get more benefit, and then also like if done really well, or someone who is coming on to while they were like don't have the stack overflow ish thing earlier they have learned. By everybody in the software industry, what I meant to say, like, will benefit a bit more. Gen AI will create more opportunities for software developers in many many ways than ever. The area is going to expand, and then I think there will be more programmers today. If there is an approximate 30 million developers, I think it is only going to widen the pie. A lot many people will come join to become developers. They will probably learn HTML, they probably learn Python, whatever, Angular, React, all these technologies. I'm pretty sure about it. So this is not impacted. This is not like getting optimized. We are going through a normalization or some sort of a phase where we all will enjoy doing this more, I believe, and it would be fun.
I just want to go back to the earlier discussion we were having here. Actually, code review. I'm not sure, like, so if you used the code review or any GenAI tool for code review, but I was using CodeRabbit recently, and I wrote like .NET for up to 7 years. So it's like 2017 when I stopped doing .NET, and I was like, okay, let's do something in .NET. But in 7 years, technology has like gone from somewhere to somewhere else, and like .NET has also improved a lot. Like when I left .NET, it was not even open source, and now it's open source. So of course, you expect like a deep growth in the technology, and then thanks to actually this code review tool, I was able to actually understand that, okay, what has changed? Like now, in which pattern I should write my code. And it's actually helping me learn as well, which was earlier not there. Like if I don't have like something like probably Code Rabbit or like GitHub Copilot, probably I will never know about this, which is very big gap I see in software industry. Like we have all been working in industry for like more than 10 years. And I think you might have worked with some colleagues who don't want to improve their knowledge, right? I mean, I have seen developers writing code, the same code for 5 years and then saying, hey, I wrote it this 5 years ago, it works, so I'm just doing it again. But thanks to this tool, like it can just tell you that, hey, this is not the way, like you can do it in a better way. So I think, as you mentioned, of course, it will improve your knowledge also as a software developer, but you have to embrace it, not something like, hey, I did it 5 years ago and then I don't trust GenAI anymore. I just trust myself.
Yeah, I was just looking at CodeRabbit. I haven't used it before either, right? So, but listening to what you said, it kind of reminds me of SonarQube, right? Because SonarQube does something similar, I believe, right? And they also have an AI portion now. So just wondering, how does it differ? Or very similar?
So yeah, talking about AI code reviews, right? I mean, like AI can be applied anything, and that's evident. Now we see, like, at least for marketing reasons, people have used AI or have this AI thing. But in a real sense, I think apart from we will write more code through code generation, etc. But then code reviews has been a bottleneck in general for everybody, right? So when we have a PR, at least like a mid-sized one, not like a very like 200 files or something, at least if we have like some 30-40 files, a decent enough sized PR, chances are I sat with my lead or sat with my peer and to give why is that done. Either it happens in an hour or it takes like a day or 2 or 3 days. So code reviews have been like a bottleneck. It's a collaborative process where a couple of developers sit together and do it. And if it is only two developers, I have settled meetings for doing code reviews. So with AI, like all the places like where you have productivity, creativity, benefits. Similarly, I think in embedding or like giving a first line of defense against your prayers, I think Santosh, I don't know what Santosh learned from .NET doing coding and like using Code Rabbit. I would love to know more. But then for me at least, I know I'm a very strong developer. I feel like I want to know what I write, and then I want to send. After checking my diff, I'll do my own work and then I'll raise a PR. So when I raise a PR, I already know what I want, but then there will be some issues. I'm pretty sure that somebody will, a third eye will bring me something. What CodeRabbit is helping me with is it simply finds out all those issues, sometimes nitpicks, and I really like it and I want to work on them. So it's like a first line of defense. And it's a bit more than your regular Sonar Cube or other code quality tools. I have used a lot of them, Coverity, open source ones. It's also better than, in a way, linters, because linters bring me sometimes a lot of noise. Oh, I have used Gatsby and a lot of linters over, and then sometimes I can't differentiate between what's a warning, especially in some frameworks. So a warning might be a real issue in a way. That's what I want to say. So what CodeRabbit actually does is like, does AI powered linters. It has a bunch of tools. It does automatic linting. If you have a file, you can pick up these rules from into this AI tool, and then it'll give you that code review. It'll also find out on all these refactorings, potential issues, error handling, bunch of stuff, like several categories. And that's what as a so I might not be thinking about architecture in a way, right? Sometimes when I'm writing feature or modularity, this doesn't come to mind immediately when you want to, in the rush of finishing a feature. So I think that way it is really helpful to putting an AI layer as a first line of defense. And surprisingly, a lot of maintainers, I just got off a call with the RPC maintainer, and like TRPC is like a TypeScript request processing, and then he has interesting things to say. So there are people like this who's finding value out of CodeRabbit, which is pretty interesting for me. Yeah, that's cool to know. I think, yeah, I believe like everybody should think about code quality. And I mean, at least like, thinking about using some extension to your regular workflow if you're generating out of Cursor or out of like, GitHub Copilot, etc. Yeah.
We need that, right? I mean, I still remember like when GenAI came, the biggest concern I also had like, hey, now I'm going to get a lot of PR with like AI generated code, and like now it will be a mess because I don't want to review that, right? I mean, I know like that's a shit code because it just takes the code from open source or some GitHub repositories I'm not aware of, or even let's say it works in your context, that's a bigger problem because your code base is like 5, 10 years old, and you know that shit. I mean, if some Gen AI is going to learn from a shitty code, it will just generate shitty code. With these tools, I think at least it can be stopped and it can give feedback that okay, you whatever you have wrong written is probably can be improved. Just for example, my .NET code, right? I was talking about it, and what I did was I was just using the repository pattern which I used to use in 2017, and it told me, okay, this is something which can be done in a better way. Or I wrote some unit tests where I followed the pattern which we do in Angular, like with the naming pattern. He told me, okay, this is not the right way to do in .NET because you can actually people generally follow this rule. So it was learning experience for me. Okay, I can improve my code, of course, for sure. But do you think like it's also going to be a problem when people will rely more and more on generative AI, especially at the workplaces?
Oh man, I mean, it's definitely. I recently read a conversation wherein I think it was an experienced devs subreddit. I believe like the developer was saying like GitHub Copilot or like, my AI code assistant told me this is the right way to approach it. And then I think it was not like bad, but then it seems according to the team standard and their line of work, they need to do it slightly different. And then the maintainer or the lead came complaining that, I think I'm going to see this more. And yeah, I think we should still, the fundamentals are more important when you have more automators, the understanding of underlinings of every technology. So we need to be more stronger engineers now than ever. Someone who has like more stronger engineers will be much better. I can't go, this is my best reference. In fact, actually, every time I kind of like think of this area, because I've read a lot of books on industrial evolution, I'm interested in machines and technology and that sort of stuff, myself interested in robots and all of that. So I think that, a lot of these folks in the electrical engineering itself is like a very big branch, and then it's well established, the processes are well established. If you want to put up an electrical generation plant, right, electricity generation plant, there are so many things. But if you don't know the fundamentals of your voltage, how your resistance works, you will create, even though you build a gigawatt plant, you can bring it down in a second. In a second, does it? A simple mistake can, a simple grounding effect will spoil everything. Same thing, right? I think we have to be more stronger engineers, someone who knows what it is. So that's where I think the effort is more on system design, architectural patterns, and how we follow. Maybe we design something new, it's fine, like solid principles and writing code with modularity. So yeah, following a specific, like say, style guide that you all abide to or you like it. Like say Google has a JavaScript style guide, right? So you need to think about all of this, you need to learn about all of this, and that just makes you, yeah, I think, am I going in the right way or not the right way?
I think it applies to all the industries, for example, finance or maybe research. I think you have to be aware of the basics. If you cannot just skip that and rely on Gen AI.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to tell you one more point here is sometimes I really feel pulled down when I'm using some of these AI code agents. Anyone, right? I probably feel like, okay, I can do more, better, and then I know what to be done. Okay, now you have given what you have given, it's my time. So I also feel that I'll also not use that suggestion and do it. That's because probably I have an event, and I might be wrong as well when I take that my own code to another human, because he might have a better perspective or she might give me a better logic. But then still, I think because the intelligence is compressed in a model and we are serving it a faster pace and it gives you more adrenaline rush, doesn't mean it's always right. Yes.
Yeah, it seems like, AI will become like a standard part of, not just every person, but every profession, right? Like the way it's expanding. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that we will, maybe keyboards might be out of a thing of its past. I feel like we might be chatting to people, dictating, telling. So keyboard might be a relic. Like, I don't know how it happened, but have you seen this shift of, like, earlier we used to have phones with keypads where we need to type like physical keypads, and then touch came in, and then at some point also Google Assistant and Siri made some tasks easier to, like, setting alarms and doing a lot of that. So I believe we might be in that barrier somewhere. At some point we might feel like, okay, and this is what is called as vibe coding, right, where you use tools like whisperflow or super whisper, or like some transcribing tool to, like, talk to an agent, and then and then it'll type it, and then yeah, that's how it is.
So I think we are at the end of our podcast, and thanks again, Ivan, for your time. It was a great conversation. I think we can talk about GenAI and everything around GenAI for us. But yeah, we have to stop somewhere. But actually, I was thinking about maybe we can in future talk about code review, because that can be an interesting topic for sure. And that has been interesting topic for mostly, I think, for most of the developers out there. And I have seen, yeah, people doing it in good way, bad way, getting offended, getting fighting, and as you mentioned, like, of course, then finally getting into a meeting and then solving those issues. So great topic. Thanks for suggesting it, and thanks for bringing it as well. But I'll come back to you. Maybe we can do another podcast, and so we can probably do that. But yeah, we have enough for today. But Arvind, do you have any resources where people can learn more about GenAI and the usages, and maybe if they can build something?
So there is a ton of content at this time. It's a content game right now. So a lot of people are creating content. I really feel bad about it. So definitely, if you are getting started and you really want to learn something, definitely look at deeplearning.ai. I really appreciate the team making it free for everybody. Great resource for learning everything related to generative AI. Andrew NG has been a great resource or educator for this entire ML AI industry. And I think definitely look at deeplearning.ai. That's one. And then you also have a lot of these hubs of information across different parts. Like, say, for example, if you look at major model providers, they have cookbooks. So some of these are executables, like, a Python notebook. You just open on Google Colab and then, do that. So I believe, like, look at those resources. And there are these communities like LangChain and other places where you could learn more if you want to build on top of AI. But if you want to use AI, again, I think there is endless opportunities, right? Especially in the AI code assistants, and then, there are many of these tools are available as VS Code extensions that you could give it a shot. So please do consider getting that vibe of, like, how it is to work with something. And I believe Copilot is free, at least for a decent amount of use. So I think you could use Copilot for writing something that's more interesting.
And if you're building an AI agent, I think one of our common friend, actually, Ahmed Abbas, was building Langbase. We had him a few months back on our podcast. So you check out langbase.io. It's an amazing platform as well.
Yeah, Langbase is a fantastic tool. And then you can also, the platform is so well and nicely designed. I think you can build anything, and it's great way to, like, do stuff.
So anything else you want to promote, Arvind, on the show?
I think, yeah, I write a newsletter summarizing a lot of latest happenings in the developer world, not necessarily AI. Of course, like, now today, the AI, it's AI has been quite dominating in a different manner. So it's called Dev Shots. And then I'll share the link with Santosh to put it in the description or something. But then it's a Substack newsletter. Take a look at it. I kind of, like, write more about AI, secure AI, or, like, covering a lot of news related to it. So, and then definitely, like, take a look at CodeRabbit if you are a developer and or an open source maintainer fighting PR spam, like how Santosh suggested. I think it's going to be really helpful and fun too. It's free for open source projects, so you could give it a shot.
Thank you. Thank you again, Arvind. Thank you, Sonu, for joining. And I'll probably, as we just, we'll probably meet again soon.
Sure,
So see
sure.
ya. Bye,
Definitely.
friend.
Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice day.
Bye.